Hello, in the video today we'll work with Crossmedia, creating Crossmedia products, and the video will start out showing you how you can vectorize a logo for your product. Afterwards you'll see how in InDesign you can create templates for different media types, for example posters, flyers and so on. Prepare those templates, and afterward we'll try to actually build a design on one of those templates. For today's exercise, we'll be using different files that I've included in today's files. There's a folder called Fruit Logo, one called Fruits, and one called Templates. Those templates are actually some that you will be making yourself by following the instructions in this videos, and this logo is something you'll be creating yourself by following the instructions of this video. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Have a nice exercise. So, how to create a logo very fast in Photoshop and Illustrator. Okay, first up, I'm gonna make a fictitious commercial for a fruit company. I found this picture on Colorbox, downloaded it, opened it up in Photoshop. Let's just do that again. And I'll find it right here. Just open it up. I'm gonna crop the parts out I don't need. Like that. Perhaps gonna make it smaller so it's gonna be faster to image trace it in Illustrator. So I'm gonna go to image size. That's image size inside of Photoshop. Or simply just Options Command I. On a PC, that's Options Control I. Gonna set down the dimensions of this picture so it's less, and I'm gonna have to switch on resample in order to do so. Okay, now it's smaller. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save it in a lower quality. Perhaps gonna name it low res. Since I already have a file, I'm gonna dub it low res 2. I'm gonna set it to a quality that's lower than 12 so it fills out less space on my computer, and thus takes less time for Illustrator to make into vector. Okay, that being done, I'm gonna open Illustrator. I already prepared one right here. I'm just gonna create a new artboard, create, and I'm gonna file place, that's Command D, Control D if you're on a PC. I'm gonna place it, click and drag, like that. Then I'm gonna find image trace in Window, image trace, and here I'm gonna, while having this selected, I'm gonna choose color, and I'm gonna set it to 2 colors and preview it. Depending on which size this file was from Photoshop, it will take less or more time to preview it. This looks perfect, so I'm gonna click expand up here, converting it into vector graphic. There's a white shape out here, so I'm just gonna choose my white arrow, gonna click on that white outside of the lemon and delete it. I'm gonna keep the white inside of this shape so there's no transparency, meaning that it will still appear as a lemon when you put it onto a background. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do is add some text. I'm gonna rescale this, and perhaps let's call it Fruit Company. And I think I'll use another font for that. So for that, I'm gonna go to Window, Type, Character. And I already placed mine over here in the panels. But normally it will appear like this, floating out here perhaps. So I can just put it over here. Next thing I'll do is I'll find the proper font. While having selected this text box, I'll flip through my different fonts. And actually I'll just choose the one called Noteworthy. I don't know if you have that font, so if you don't, just select something else. I'm gonna drag my size bigger, like this. I'm probably gonna change the colors so it seems more fruity, lemon or lime color, and perhaps an orange for this one. And then gonna select some pitch. Over here I named it the green life. You know, it can be anything. So let's just write ways to healthier living. And just gonna drag that bigger like that. And perhaps gonna select a different color for this. And yeah, okay, perhaps this color is better. And by having done this, I have my new logo, and just to be sure that the logo doesn't complain when it comes onto another computer, I'm gonna outline this text so it becomes graphic instead of actually being a font that's being used for this. And first off, I think I'm not totally happy with this color, so let's just give it something else. That's not entirely what I want. Yeah, let's just give it this color. It's gonna be a hell when you put it on a different background because there's all these colors in the logo. So perhaps I'm actually just gonna go with orange for everything. Okay, so I'm gonna create outlines. Gonna select my text with my black arrow and just gonna choose type and then create outlines for this text. And that way I have my logo prepared. I'm just going to use my artboard tool. It's just there's no point in having all this excess artboard space. So I'm just going to choose my artboard tool and simply drag it up here. So we don't have all this excess space. And you can actually get it to resize by itself by simply just choosing for the size to fit to artwork bounds. I just prefer having just a bit of clear space in my logo so I always know approximately how far other items are supposed to be to the logo. And yeah, let's just save this. So I'm gonna save this as a finished fruit logo. And since you already expanded the image into vector graphic, the image does not exist inside of this file anymore, and thus it does not take up any space if it was embedded. This is the file that we'll be using for today's exercises in how to make fruit adverts across different media. Yeah. Okay, so for this exercise, we decided to use different media in order to cover a cross-media assignment. We're gonna make an abribus, which is a bus stop commercial. Then we're gonna make an A sign. That's something that's normally located in front of a shop or a company. Normally, if you have a restaurant, you will have an A sign outside. We're gonna make a flyer, and we're gonna make a Facebook cover and Instagram square photo, just to have some kind of feeling of a campaign going on for this fruit company that we're doing a campaign for. Yeah, so I'm just gonna make these formats inside of InDesign, and I'll go to InDesign, File, New Document, and then I'm gonna make a abribus. So that's I'm gonna just go to centimeters because this is big. So the width is gonna be 118 and 0.5 and 175. These dimensions are also located as resources where you can see where I found these dimensions for the different formats. The flyer format is randomly. I just choose that to be A6, but all the other formats are actually something that I found resources for indicating these different sizes, and the social media sizes are current. That's in 2021, which sizes are the preferred for covers for Facebook and Instagram square photos. So this is up-to-date measurements. Okay, so this is gonna be portrait format, and it's not gonna be facing pages. And yeah, I don't know if I need margins. I could check, if there are some specifications of which parts of the poster will not be shown because it's hidden by some part of the poster frame. And that's also inside of the specifications of the files I handed out, which parts will not be seen. But I'm just gonna make a margin of 20 centimeters. I'm not gonna have anything important, 20 centimeters, sorry, millimeters. I'm not gonna have anything important located in these, behind these regions, just to account for something perhaps being hidden. And I'm gonna be happy with this format. So here we have the app Rebus, and I'm just gonna keep that open. Then I'm gonna make an A sign, new document, A sign, and I'll just write in the dimensions. That's gonna be 50 centimeter types 70 centimeter, and yeah, it's gonna be standing upright. The dimensions are a bit smaller here. I'm gonna type in a smaller margin, and I'm just gonna click create. There's no point in making bleed edges on this on a poster, since it's not gonna be printed duplex. Okay, so that's the format for my A sign. I'm not sure why my InDesign is going outside the screen. Just one sec. There we go. And I'm gonna make a flyer, new document, and since this is easier to just find right here, A5, and just reduce the height to half, so that's 105, and my flyer will be portrait format. It could be landscape format, but I'm gonna make mine portrait format, and I'll have a margin of 5 millimeters because it's very small format, and I'm just gonna click create to that. Perhaps this one will have a back as well, so perhaps on this one I would make a bleed edge. For this exercise it will only have a front page, but normally a flyer will have 2 pages, front and back. So let's just indicate that it's gonna have 2 pages by adding a bleed. Okay, so the next thing is to create the Facebook cover. So this is gonna be for web, and I'll just type in 820 times 360 in pixels, and this is of course going to be landscape format. The margins, I think they are probably going to be a bit smaller, and I'm not going to use any bleed or slug, of course, since it's for social media, for the web. Gonna click create, and last off I'll create a document which is again for web, and I'm gonna type in the measurements 1080 times 1080, and the orientation won't matter here because it's the same dimensions on each side, and 36 pixels is gonna be fine. I'm gonna keep this, gonna click create, and so now we have all the different formats ready. Because I'm gonna have some kind of I'm gonna have a structure running through all of these different formats. I would like to divide it in ninths,
So I'm just going to go to layout and create guides, and I'm just going to make a number of rows, which is, I'm going to say 9 rows, 9 columns, and no gutter, just to, and that's going to be relative to the margins. And I'm going to click preview here, and then we'll see that we have some kind of foundation for some kind of grid that's going to help us make the design inside of InDesign. How to place the elements and so on. I could be using a gutter if needed, but in this case we're just going to make it simple, so no gutter is going to be used. This would be if you wanted some air between each and every one of these grids. You could have done that. I'm gonna go with no gutter and just click OK. And since this one is done now, I'll just save that as an Abribus template. So I'm gonna click for this to be saved. I'm gonna save it in today's file. So types of media, I'm gonna make a folder called templates, and we'll just give this name Abribus. And instead of saving it as a document, I'm gonna save it as a template. Save, and then we can close it. The next thing we had created was an A sign. I'm gonna just add that grid, create guides, type 9, no gutter, and relative to margins, and click OK. Save it, A sign, and as a template. By saving it as a template, you're making sure that you don't save on top of the file when you start to create your commercial. So that way you will always have your template. You won't accidentally overwrite it. So that's the cool thing about a template. You don't never overwrite it accidentally. Okay, so for the A6, I'm gonna add some guides. Gonna type 9, 0, 0, relative to margins, okay, and simply gonna save it as a flyer template. Gonna close that, and this one, oops, I'm just gonna create guides, 9, 0, 0, relative to margins, fantastic, save it, Facebook cover template. And last but not least, I'll close this up, make some guides for my Instagram, square photo, relative to margin, click OK, save as a template called Instagram square photo. And now we got our templates right. So if I were to design anything on this page right here, so if I were to draw something and click Save As, it's automatically going to suggest that I save as an InDesign document instead of saving on top of the Instagram square photo template. So this way, when I click Save, it's not going to overwrite the old file. So that's perfect. Yeah, so that's how to create your templates and get ready for actually performing the exercise of making this commercial advertisement cross-media. Okay, so I'm gonna design using these templates that we just created. Notice when you open all these templates, they're gonna be named untitled. This is even further away to prevent you from saving on top of the templates. So when I open these different files, I'm just gonna close them all now. Don't save. And so if I were gonna make the Abribus, you notice when I double click it to open it, it will open up in InDesign, but it will be named untitled. Okay, so there are some files located in the files for today.
and you'll notice that there is the fruit logo we created, and there's some fruits that I found on Colorbox, and then there's some placeholder text that we're going to place on top of that. Since this is going to be placed on the abribus, we need all the information to be located on this printed poster. So I'm just going to lock my layer, which has these different items, these different guidelines on them, just so I don't accidentally get a hold of one of them and move them. So and you could rename these layers, but I'm not going to do that today. So I'm going to choose File, Place, and go inside of these files right here. So let's just do that. Desktop, and let's just place the background first. So for exercise, fruits, and I'll find one that is probably not landscape format, but portrait format. I think this one is, yeah, I'm gonna use this one right here. And I'll just click and drag the size and make it go out. Gonna free transform it proportionally by holding down Shift. There we have it, and just gonna use my black arrow to just drag these corners in, so there's nothing going outside. And okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do is place my logo. Yeah, and I have two different versions. I'm gonna use the one that I made with you guys. So I'm gonna place that somewhere on here. Gonna free transform it. You can use the free transform tool, or you could use Command, hold down Command and then Shift to make it proportional. There we have it. And since this is on a background which is not very good for this fruit company Waste to Healthier Living, you know, I could either use my effects that's located in Window, Effects. I could use a drop shadow to prevent the text from being less readable, and perhaps change the distance a bit. I'm gonna write 0.5, and perhaps that will make it better. Another thing I could do actually was, if it was part of the design identity of this company, it could be because it has text that's very noisy against any kind of background because it's orange. I could actually have this kind of identity where I always place a white object behind. So I'm gonna do like that and just arrange it, send to back, like that. And of course it's gonna be located not entirely in the back, but perhaps around here. And that way the effect on the text would not be necessary. So I'm just gonna turn that off, and that way it would make much more sense if it was placed like this. And of course I'm trying to use this grid right here, so perhaps that could somehow make sense if I reshaped both of these objects to fit the size. You know, that's up to you, but you have this grid and you might as well use it. I think personally that I preferred it with the effect, so I'm just gonna change this and add the effect, and simply just click on drop shadow and perhaps change some of the values in here. 0.2, 0.2, and perhaps darker opacity. Actually, I think 0.4 will be better. Okay, so we also need some text in here. I would definitely need to change this so the text is more legible, but this is just for example. So we're trying to just make a fast summary of how this could look.
The next thing I'll do is add the placeholder text. So I'll just take my text tool and make a text box. Perhaps actually put this on a new layer and lock the other layer. Just move that text frame up on layer 3 and lock layer 2. And while having this text frame selected, I'll just drag my placeholder text over here. So the text comes in here, and I'll just make sure you can actually read it, make it bigger. This is the text that's going to be in here. So there's going to be some header text, some big important text right here. So I'm going to put that somewhere. And of course, this company would normally have a font that it's using. But let's just presume that the font that it's using is Futura for display, or header text. Futura bold actually, and we'll just I'll just put that right here. And this is probably going to be a more fruity color. So let's make it yellow, and perhaps I'm going to make it even bigger. Designing better lives, fruit by fruit. Fruit company seems way too big now. I'll just try changing that up a bit. Later on, but first adding all the elements, and then we can start, changing stuff afterwards. This box will fit down here. And I'll just make this a different point size, let's say 80, so people can read it while standing close to the poster near the bus stand. And actually, let's make this white. Of course, none of these choices are normally incidental. None of these choices are something that is just accident. It would be something that's indicated in your design guide for the company, which colors does it normally use and so on. So you don't just go over here and choose them normally. You'd figure out in the design guide for the company which colors would normally be used, if the company, of course, has a design guide. Otherwise, you should tell them it's a good idea if they consider getting one made. I think I'm gonna resize the text and perhaps just make it a bit smaller. And yeah, perhaps this text is gonna go all the way to the edge of the frame, and I'm just gonna see in preview how this is gonna look. It's not exactly like a fully professional commercial you would see on a bus stand, but it's at the start of something. I'm just gonna make the logo smaller because this seems too big compared to the actual intent of this commercial. So gonna select these different items right here. Finish logo, and oh yeah, the text is part of the logo. God damn it. So let's just make that smaller to somewhere around here. And perhaps actually I would like this picture itself to have a gradual transition over to white. So I'm going to go to my effects again. This is because I think this logo is disappearing too much, the text especially. And I did decide not to use the white background to this logo. So I'm going to use an effect instead on the picture. I have the picture selected, and I'm going to choose for it to have a directional feather, and it's going to be from the top. And you see this way I'm creating a gradient. And perhaps that will make it better. I could also instead actually choose for it to have a gradient feather. And that way become less noticeable. And here you can actually take these paint buckets and decide where it actually starts. So perhaps something like that. I'm just going to delete that bucket down there. And perhaps this is better. So that's how perhaps this could look on a abribus, you know, where people wait for the bus. Next part of this assignment would be to try figuring out how these different cross-media products will look if they're made for an A-sign, if they're made for a Facebook cover, if they're made for a flyer or an Instagram square photo. Of course, if this was made for Instagram, there would not be as much text on it. Perhaps the display typography, the header up here, would still be located here, but all this text down here would be located in the caption text, you know, the description field in Instagram. And likewise, if it was located on Facebook, it would be irrelevant to have all this text inside of the actual picture. You would normally put that down in the text field before posting this on Facebook. So it depends on the media where this information will be located. And sometimes on some media, it makes more sense to have some text. On other media, it makes more sense to have other text, depending on how close the customer is to potentially buying this product, for example. If they're already located on your homepage, there's a high likeliness that they were already exposed to the message somehow from, for example, seeing a poster or reading an ad in a magazine. So most likely the commercials or the advertisement on your homepage will be different, will have some different information in the text than what is located on a poster or inside of a magazine. So consider that when making products for cross-media. Your assignment now is to actually try making these 5 different versions of the fruit company. It doesn't have to be the fruit company, but if it were the fruit company, I already prepared some pictures for you. I also downloaded some pictures for some CBD. I was searching on Colorbox for health, and the first thing that showed up was CBD, you know, cannabis products. I don't know why Colorbox suggests that as the first thing that is regarded to health, but you can also use these pictures instead, or you could find your own pictures. You could also instead use the pictures from your actual course assignment and make different cross-media advertisement. So we see how it varies depending on which media it's located on. I wish you the best of luck to create these different advertisements on different media. Yeah.